Jet Rose for Tom Speaking at NOLA.com here with new LHSAA Executive Director Eddie Bonine, fresh off of 2 weeks in Lake Charles for your first state championships officially as Executive Director. Obviously, you were around the Superdome for football, but what was your takeaway from how things went for the two top 28 tournaments overall?
Well, I think that the outside of the Coliseum, Burton Center, the community, the convention authority, the police jury, the sheriff's department, any and everybody that was involved in making sure that it was a safe and also a productive and exciting venue for the fans and the athletes. I think they did their job with that. First impressions, I was completely elated with the attendance. We broke a new record, if you will, on both weekends actually. So I think it was very, very positively received by many. And as a new executive director, first impressions, you only make one once, right? I thought that the attendance was good, and the overall participation level of basketball was good on both weekends. The coaching did a good job. The officiating did a good job. I think overall it graded out well for me.
Yeah, that was one of the first things you mentioned about really enjoying the level of play you saw in the Superdome football-wise. Basketball, was that, I mean, you've seen basketball a little bit around the country, certainly obviously a bunch in Nevada. How did you feel about that level of play that you mentioned a little bit?
I think the consistency of the level of participation in the athletic abilities is better overall from whatever level, the beginning level, to where we finished up at the end of the tournament on both weekends. I truly believe that the athleticism is better overall for all teams. Where maybe in the state where I came from, we had specific teams that were very athletic and others that weren't as athletic, and the athletic abilities, I think, took over for those championships to win. But I think overall athleticism was incredible to watch over the course of the weekend.
One of your focuses coming in has been sportsmanship. You've mentioned that that's going to be a big focus for this association moving forward under you. When you see a game, Lakeview and Riverside, two of the best teams in the state, they're kind of jawing at each other and they talk a little bit after. We enjoy some of the trash talk, and at the end of the game, I mean, there were no real big scuffles, and they were all shaking hands and hugging and stuff like that. Do you have any thoughts on that dynamic, or just some teams kind of getting in each other's heads a little bit, but at the end of the day, parting ways with handshakes and hugs, and just from a sportsmanship angle?
I believe that personal opinion and philosophy is in high school athletics, I don't believe that the trash talking should be a part of the game. If that's what a coach or coaches or any specific, whether it be these schools or other specific coaches in schools, permit that to go on to try to get an advantage, I think there should be a different approach in regards to getting the advantage. And whether they do that or not, I truly believe that the most athletic and best coached team is going to win anyway, whether you're trying to distract your opponent or not, which is not a good excuse for me, nor am I going to buy that excuse. But I sent the communication out early on, my expectation of sportsmanship. I believe in the overall grand scheme of things of looking at it, we still need to address sportsmanship with our competitors as well as sportsmanship with our fans. And that's just going to take time. I'm not going to throw the babies out with the bathwater, but I believe that the memorandum that I put out before the tournament, some incidents that transpired on both weekends through the course of this tournament that you witnessed, warrants to be addressed. And that's what I'm going to continue to do so, and it'll take time. But I think now that we've got through this season with my supervision, that we move into spring sports, whether it be baseball, softball coaches and umpires, or the track and field judges, whatever the case might be. We're gonna work on making sure that we're there to compete. Don't have to like each other. You can hug afterwards if you care to do so. But there was points through the course of multiple games through this weekend that I wasn't real sure that shaking hands after the game was going to be a good idea. But we went through that process and we were okay with it. It worked out fine for us. But we still have some work to do, and that's going to be my charge to do so with the support of the executive committee and others, principals across our state.
During some different post-game comments from coaches, there were some instances where coaches made sort of comments of, it was officiated in a way we weren't really comfortable with in that game, but we should have adjusted to it, we should have gotten more calls this way, to one coach even pointing out that he was frustrated with almost some select, non-select type issues. Do you have any thoughts on coaches making those types of comments, and if that's something that you'd like to to cut down on, or if you have a certain comfort of so much that they can say?
I'm accustomed to a policy regulation in where I came from in regards to a law that says, or governing policy. You can't make any comments to the media about officiating, even if the media relates to it or asks a question. The bottom line is that I'm accustomed to taking a high road. I don't necessarily defend officiating with the blind eye, but I will say in their advocation, and when it comes to high school sports, and let's go basketball, for example, where the confines are very intimate, they're expected to show up, be perfect, and then get better as the game goes on. And I think they're human like anyone else. They're in front of the crowd like anyone else. They try to not insert themselves into the game unless necessary. And if they fail to do any of those, then of course that ends up on my desk and we discuss it. But I don't think there's any room for coaches to make comments after the games about officials. And if the working media is going to ask those questions, then I think a period of time, it's me to work with the media. You can ask the questions, but it doesn't necessarily mean the coaches are going to answer the questions. That answer could very well be, you saw the game, I saw it, you write what you need to write. But I think we'll address that as well.
Same sort of deal with select, non-select type deals is in terms of, obviously it's been an interesting, at times tense landscape around the state the last couple of years. How do you feel about some of the outspokenness at times, whether it be during the past week or in general, and what you'd prefer to see?
Jared, I think it's my job and a job that I have freely accepted to work cooperatively with our school administrators and others that are involved in what we do here in high school sports to build that bridge that we're in this business for all students, regardless of where they go to school. And it's my job and my staff's job and my compliance officers' jobs out there to make sure that the schools are adhering to all our rules and regulations. And I said it to you before, and I'll say it again. That book we have with 300 some odd rules, they're not suggestions. Those are rules, and my charge is to ensure that those are adhered to, and that they're applied appropriately and consistently across our state. And until that piece is there, until we have situations where the decisions are going to have to be made from this office on ineligibilities or eligibilities, or in this case, sportsmanship issues, and unfortunately maybe suspensions, whatever the case might be, with either whether it be individuals or schools, whatever. We're going to work at it diligently until it gets to become satisfactory. But overall, I would think in the tournament, because you mentioned sportsmanship, I think overall in the tournament I would grade it out as a good B plus, if not close to an A minus in regards to overall sportsmanship by everybody involved. But there was incidents that would drag that average down, especially when it comes to some fan behavior. You can't, I guess, have that expectation for students if the fans are going to act the way they're going to act. As mentioned in one of the gentleman's invocations there, we learn how to win with dignity and humility, and learn how to lose with some dignity and grow from it. And in a couple of instances, not to mention any names, which I think you know what I'm referring to, over the course of 2 weeks, we had a few schools that failed on both ends of that.
Gotcha. Moving forward, obviously going into more track and field, softball, baseball, some of the more outdoor sports. Thoughts on getting into some of those and just the rest of this school year?
No rain. I know that's a large task to ask, but the rain is really, the weather has put us in a position, Jared, what we have had to massage some of our rules to allow schools to play more games in the course of a week that they're normally allowed to per regulation. Try to get some games in, baseball, softball, just to name a couple, tennis, golf, just to allow some of those matches to happen, and working cooperatively with the principals, and basically the schools have been affected. And even when the unusual weather was in northern Louisiana, up in that neck of the woods, it's tough to even get, even though it may be sunny, but the roads are still icy. So curveball handed to me early, but staff was very knowledgeable. They know the state better than I yielded to them, and I thought we made some decisions to allow them to continue to play and get some stuff in, which is outside of some of our rules in regards to participation numbers. But that's the stuff we do. We want to make sure that the students have a chance to play. It's not fair to come into the postseason when you've only had a certain number of games and you're allowed a certain. Not that we'll get them all made up, but it gives them an opportunity to participate and get some swings in, or get some running in, or whatever the case might, some pitches in.
There you go. Executive Director Eddie Bonine at the LHSAA for NOLA.com, and Thomas McCune and Jared Roser.